Grounded has no future if you go around listening to negative Nellies and take the feature board, which just got updated, at face value. But I'm here today to tell you, don't panic, don't worry. There's a whole ton of content coming into Grounded. I'm going to show you exactly why. Also, part of that is revealing some of the plans that never made it to 1.0 and will never make it, including more about the creatures, prototypes and cut content. But is there actually some signs that show a big DLC in the future? And yes, there were some leaks that tended to be on the fake side, or certainly a bit of a joke, so well done the guys in Discord that managed to hoodwink not just me, but other stupid YouTubers too. It's all here, let's go, it's the Grounded News. So let's address the feature board, which has finally got updated and a whole bunch of stuff just removed or taken out. But first, a little bit of game dev education. During early access, which I've covered over 100 in 7 years of doing YouTube, mostly survival games as well, I have come to realise that during early access, you put up your roadmaps, you put up your feature board, you let people know what you've got planned, because that encourages us to buy a game that could be a risk, especially on Steam from unknown devs. People might not actually see that game ever be completed, or it just might take for absolutely ever to get somewhere in the game. Grounded is no different. Over the years, it has given us loads of features to think about and talk about. But they have changed the feature board, and this is part and parcel of leaving 1.0. They've removed pretty much all of the stuff that was on there previously, and now we've just got quality of life and base building blueprints. This shouldn't really be a note of concern. This happens with every single early access release I've ever seen, whether it be Ark, whether it be Conan Exiles, DayZ, Rust, loads of games, while they were either in their beta stages or early access stages, would keep you informed. But as soon as they left early access, they basically decided to cut any future plans off of their websites, because they want to obviously see how the game does, and then things may have changed. Stuff that you kind of thought was cool 2 years ago, maybe not so cool now, or you've kind of already done it in a different way. I think it's really important to take note of the opening line on this features board, and I'll paraphrase it. It basically says, anything you see on this board, it may or may not come to the game. Some things may be moved around, some things may be pushed back, other things may be cut completely. It also says that this isn't the final word on content coming to the game. This is just a little heads up in the immediate future. So as said, when you come out of early access, you generally cut all that stuff out. Give the pressure a little bit, take it off, focus on hotfixing, quality life stuff, and then go ahead with your plans. Most games like Ark, Conan, other stuff have always done DLC 3 or 4 months after their full launch, and that's pretty much where we're at with a lot of survival games, kind of almost like a service. So why have they cut certain things off the feature board? Why have we now no longer got ant pheromones? Why have we not got powered structured buildings? Why have we not got things like rentable dedicated servers potentially? Well, none of that stuff was ever promised completely. Some of it was planned, and pretty much every item that was in the planning stage has made it to Grounded in some way, shape or form. Grounded's definition of planned was pretty much in blue, that it would eventually arrive. I guess it doesn't help things that they've updated this board like twice now in the last 3 weeks or so. They added a bunch of stuff for the 1.0 patch, and then they moved a few things around just a week ago or so, and now they've obviously cut a whole host of content. But it doesn't mean Grounded's not going to get or receive content in the future. It just means that they don't want to necessarily hype up stuff that might still not make it. They may still decide that it's not going to work, or they want to see where the feedback comes from 1.0 and whether or not that's going to be a priority, or if they really need something in the future. Things like additional backyard environments, additional bugs and stuff, they I do believe will still come, but they may not necessarily be bolted onto the backyard. That will probably most likely be some sort of DLC or an expansion that involves us actually travelling elsewhere. How can you be so sure, Jade? How can you not know it's just cut content from a dev build that you might have seen? How can you know it's going to come? Well, let's start with the evidence. Microsoft is a massive company. They've been desperate to get into more streaming and stuff, and with the limited success of Halo, I'm sure they want as many of their properties as possible to become multimedia hits. Grounded is no different. It's got an appeal to kids alongside Minecraft, and grown-ups likewise with the nostalgia for the 90s and 80s. They announced a good few months ago now that there would be an animated TV show coming about Grounded in the future. Now, normally other separate companies will pick up the tab for that, hoping to then sell it for the license rights to be streamed on Netflix, Amazon or whatever. in this world of multimedia generation, it's all about having your products, that brand, on as many different platforms in as many different ways, and Microsoft have proven that over and over again with their mantra for Game Pass and more. So that's number one. Grounded is going global. It's trying to be bigger than the sum of its parts, and it should do. It's a great game, and I think it'd make a great TV show. You do not sell the licenses rights, or they might even be doing it themselves if you've got no plans for the future. Now, earlier in the month, I said I didn't want to hype up leaks and stuff as much as we used to because of situations like that with the feature build, stuff that we took for granted that might arrive, maybe doesn't. And we've had that over and over again now from the Grounded devs, that a lot of stuff we saw leaked in the dev world isn't going to make it to Grounded. Not at 1.0, and it wouldn't ever make it afterwards. Apologies, Andy, if you end up watching this video to keep pulling this one up from you, but I think it's a good point. Andy clarified a few things about the secret dev world leaks that I'm about to probably show you in this video. Now, I did this a good while ago, but I think it's relevant. They prototype stuff, they chuck stuff into the world, and they never really removed it from the dev world. The dev world got uploaded to the Windows 10 store, hence why we see that image of the shed and a bunch more creatures that I'm eventually going to show you in some cut content video later on this week. It's pretty clear from Andy's wording that most of that stuff will not make it to the game. It didn't make it for 1.0, and they've got no plans to make it in the future. As much as some people might like the idea of a lizard or an ant queen, there's some good reasons behind it, which I'll go over more in a separate video. But effectively, if it's not fun, if it doesn't maybe fit the theme, or it just isn't something that's going to work out, they just didn't bother actually going forward with it, and they just didn't remove it from the dev world. So back to that picture that I'm sure you're losing your shizzle over. Yes, it's the inside of the shed. Yes, it looks like it's a fully complete level and maybe some sort of expansion or DLC in the future. Is it guaranteed to come to Grounded? Absolutely not. Bear in mind what I just said from Andy, one of the lead developers of Grounded. Content that seems fun might not actually make it. But, this is a lot of work. This is a hell of a lot of work. We can see there's some sort of bee or hornet's nest in the corner. There's a whole biome being built here. It's not just one character model. It's not just one arm set or weapon set. So this is evidence that there is a lot of content that has been developed. It's not evidence it's come into Grounded, but it is evidence that they've built a ton of stuff. It really might be the case that a lot of this was very first prototypes for some of the laboratories we've seen in the hedge, hence why you can see the hamster tunnels, and then they decide just to change them to something a bit more ominous. And obviously, yes, we can see things like the bee's nest or the wasp's nest as well. But to me, it does point a picture that this could potentially be something to expect in the future. Maybe it won't be the shed after all. Maybe it'll be the front yard. Maybe it'll be inside the house. Maybe it'll be another yard completely, as alluded to by the intro screen when you first load up Grounded and the first cutscene. I've had this pitch up for about 3 and a bit weeks, maybe a bit longer, 4 weeks. Obviously, when the dev world got leaked, like I said, you guys sent me a bunch of stuff. I said to the devs I wouldn't show this stuff off. But speaking about it, you guys seem to think that it's fair game, or some of you do that I spoke to in Discord anyway, now that I can talk about afterwards, as it's not obviously hyping up something that we're going to expect in 1.0 and didn't actually deliver. If this does ever turn up as DLC or some sort of expansion, then you can imagine why people might not want it to be revealed just when the game's going 1.0. Oh, why hasn't it been added to the rest of the game? I paid my $30 and I'm really unhappy. I spent 100 hours playing the game. All because I didn't get this content. You're ripping me off. It's going to be DLC. It should be part of everything I paid at once. Honestly, anytime I see someone complaining in my comments about Grounded or in Discord, that's exactly how I imagine they talk. But with an American accent. So Grounded has just come out. You want the focus to be on the stuff you have made and finished and you have got ready for 1.0. The brand new bosses, the brand new biome, the brand new armor sets, weapons, and all of the new creatures. It's pretty much raw marketing 101. You don't want to have people thinking about having to pay more for a game in the future, even though they gladly would, because I would. I think Grounded's great value. I think it's amazing. It's such a cheap price for the content that's in it. It's one of the best survival games going, games going, and I would easily pay another $30 or so for a DLC where I could run around the shed maybe. But there's timing and there's place when you announce this stuff. And yes, I might be breaking that now, only 2 weeks after its actual release or whatever. But I don't know, I really want to support Grounded as much as I can. I think they've done a great job and I will keep defending these devs. The minute they do something really shady, like if they start adding microtransactions that are just not good value, or they start really not supporting or helping out the game with hotfixes, or it becomes an unbuggable, playable mess, then sure, I'll criticise them. I've done that in loads of games in the past. This is why I get so enraged and annoyed at other people when they start criticising, in my opinion, sometimes unfairly, because I've played and covered every other survival game. I know the trash that is out there. Anyway, I've gone on a rant and a tangent there. Let's get back to business with actual proof and what the devs have said.
We were looking at is making sure that stuffed creature, we have a full set of stuffed creatures and trophies available for your bases. That's something that we're looking at, and then maybe a couple more little vanity things for your base.
Now, I have gone through all this before. This was 2 weeks ago at Casually Grounded. Adam gave a bunch of answers to questions. So that's what we'd expect. I did say it was a bit odd that we didn't get some of this stuff with the 1.0 launch. Like, there's no stuff bugs of any of the new creatures. There's no recipes or meals involved in them. So that's what you can expect. And some of that stuff is going to be big. Getting a whole brand new swathe. I was saying it's going to be called like the Cozy update or the Far From Home update, whatever it's going to be. But we'll probably get one around Christmas time that adds a whole bunch of that stuff to it. Maybe even sooner.
Any chance for more traps for base defense?
Ooh.
Yes. If you have ideas for some new traps, it's something that I think we would like to maybe get a few more traps in.
Again, that will be a great quality of life content update. More traps, more features like that to make a bit more use, or have some of the stuff late game be a little bit more involved than just building huge ton of walls or triangular pieces everywhere. So as I said, I've covered this stuff before, but they also mentioned that Sean Dunny wants to add more building pieces to the game. They're open to suggestions, made out the new tier 3 Ash wall set. So anything you can think of with that, what would you like to be added in future? And again, they are looking at traversal. As I told you guys, I showed you the cut helicopter, which was just a bit of fun, but they have got big plans for other stuff in the future. Maybe it'll be fast travel, maybe it'll be up, zipline, trinket. We don't know for 100% sure, but there will be something to kind of address that.
We're not ready to talk about like new content. I think we're pretty focused on just bug fixing right now, and we're kind of thinking about what's next for Grounded at this point.
So this is the problem I've got with people that are going to be negative about it or try claiming that Grounded's not going to support the game going forward. Adam literally just said there, we're not ready to talk about it, and that's pretty freaking normal. Quality of life, updates, everything I just mentioned, game success, can see how much more time and effort you want to put into it, how much more value you're going to get back as a games company. And so now they're reevaluating that. It doesn't mean they're going to stop. It just means that maybe they might put more people on it because it's been a success. They might decide not to. Either way, it does sound like there's going to be a lot more content coming to the game. Just, yeah, marketing purposes right now, they don't want to reveal it. A lot of people buying games might feel like they don't want to buy something if it's incomplete. Grounded is complete. It's got a fulfilling story. Yes, there are some parts of the upper yard that might feel a bit extra, but I prefer a short story that people can complete because the vast majority, if you check your achievements and trophies, never get through these types of games to the end. I'd rather a short story and then optional ways to go and explore and do more. And that's exactly what Grounded gives us. It gives us the opportunity to finish the story and then carry on doing optional dungeons and content.
As soon as we can. I think there's some stuff that's pretty out of date on it.
So again, it doesn't mean that some of that content might not return in the future. It just means they want to be focused on quality of life first and making sure we get them building pieces like the stuffed creatures, making more use, as well as the whole host of other stuff I just mentioned. And there was even more. So you can go and watch the video that I did of this recap 2 weeks ago, or take a look at the traversal one where I mentioned more about it as well.
Right now, there's no plans on adding more insects to the yard. It's something that we'll have to kind of like look at what our future plans are for Grounded, and you'll all be the first to know about it once we have our plans in place of what we're doing for the future for the game.
So there you go, plans in place. Now, obviously in the short term, they're not adding any bugs. And anyone expecting any kind of big updates before Christmas or maybe even March or April next year, then I'm sorry, I'm going to educate you now. Game development doesn't work that quick, especially with a team of only 20 people making it. As I told you in a future video, Grounded, expect quality of life, maybe some stuffed creatures before Christmas, and then it might not be until March, April next year that we start seeing some actual maybe other content coming. And I do firmly believe that other content might be something like the shed, or it'll be the front yard, or it'll be inside the house. But we're not done yet. At PAX East in April, Grounded devs had a bunch of questions thrown their way from Q&A, and a lot of their answers were basically saying, yeah, that's a cool idea, or yeah, that will definitely be something we'll put on our consideration list, or it's just not high on priority just yet. Some of them questions involve things like riding roly-polies. The bottom line was the devs basically said they couldn't really guarantee it because the list was getting bigger and bigger what would actually make it to 1.0 or not. So even more compelling evidence that there will be more content coming to Grounded in the future. The devs would know better than to really affirmatively say, yeah, we're working on stuff, or whether or not it's on their priorities list at the moment. They could just flatly outrule bug riding altogether, but they didn't. Now, flip side is though, they did mention about getting extra armor pieces when you kill some of the bosses, so like a broodmother, maybe rest of the set to go with the mask. Adam seemed pretty sure that that was something they would maybe consider adding to the game. But then recently, I do believe some of the devs, maybe the community team, kind of said, no, actually, that's not going to be the case. We kind of like you mixing armors and stuff. So there's a little bit of confusion here or there with some of that stuff, as to be expected sometimes. But yeah, I still would hold that there's a lot of ideas that Grounded team have, and it's just about finding the right moment and time to implement them. The future is going to be bright for Grounded. They're keeping things on a down low at the moment because of marketing and whatever, but rest assured, in the future, we are going to get a ton of content. Will it be stuff like the Ant Queen? Probably not. As Andy stressed, a lot of that stuff has been cut, never to be returned again. But that means I'm even more excited about the possibilities of what they're working on instead. This video's gone on long enough as it is, so I will do a proper cut content or content that never made it or potential content that might eventually arrive or just all the leaks that we covered in a separate video. But just to finish off and show that in my opinion, some of this stuff, although it may not have made it to 1.0, I feel like it's probably a wasted effort if it doesn't get evolved into something different for the future. And then on to the fake stuff. So a couple of days ago, I told you guys about a hotfix, important stuff to do with the game. And then I did show you a picture of the lizard and the Ant Queen. And it turns out though, the notes that accompanied it were fake. These were photoshopped by some of the Discord crew. Shout out to Chillax as well as Apex Predator. Well done, you got me. Luckily I didn't base a whole video around it, for crying out loud, but it did seem plausible. So their fan fiction of why the lizard might have ended up in the backyard did seem plausible, but it is completely fake. We have got no note about any kind of lizard or any reason why there was going to be some sort of Ant Queen in the yard. What we do know for sure is that the pictures are true. I have got a lot of theories about some of that content being cut, particularly the lizard. It just would have been too bloody and it would have probably broken their age rating. If you're killing a lizard, you're going to have actual proper blood. If you notice in the game, the only blood you get is when mosquitoes get you or when you go ahead and use a heal basser. But if you're attacking something that has actually got a bit more gore in it, it probably raised the rating up to something like 16 instead of 12. And that's a big no-no for Grounded because it is catered towards a younger audience. When it comes to the Ant Queen, it just doesn't make sense for the arena. There are a few tunnels that have been blocked off completely, so you can't access them without cheats. But judging by the size of it, I just feel like it probably wasn't an interesting fight. It's not going to move that quickly, or if it does, it'd be pretty scary. It'd be almost like a spider kind of fight. Long ago in the game files, it was meant to summon black ant soldiers and stuff, but obviously that wouldn't make sense if it's a red Ant Queen, and judging by some of the armor and stuff, we presume it is. If it's not that, if it is just a regular Ant Queen, what purpose apart from another armor set would we get from it, as they seemingly just got rid of the ant pheromone control idea of being able to maybe control ants, or eventually they thought they might be able to have ants as pets more in the game, or maybe the pheromone could be used to turn off raid factions. Who knows what the actual idea with the pheromones was. But clearly the idea evolved into something else, maybe Schmector and the orc creatures being controlled by the receivers and stuff instead. So there you go. That's my two big theories about them, but I'll discuss it a little bit more in the upcoming cut content, leak content that never made its Grounded video very soon. And that's it. That's my big ranty video over and done with. Grounded's going to get content. Trust me, bro. Trust me. A couple more weeks of hotfixes, maybe towards Christmas, that stuff bug update and a few other little quality of life stuff. And then maybe early part next year, we might look at things like traversal, fast travel points, the extra build pieces from tier 3, as well as extra base defense pieces. And then in my opinion, I imagine any time afterwards, although no pressure, March onwards, we might start looking at a free expansion or some sort of DLC or paid something else. So don't listen to too much negativity around Grounded. It's got a good future. Keep playing the game, keep enjoying it, and yeah, there's going to be lots to come for the game. Mark my words.